Alright guys, I have been watching too many people's annual reviews, favoriting too many items, getting too many fresh ideas in my little head, and then I unleashed on the interwebs and purchased far too much yarn. So now we're going to do a yarn haul. This all began because I was looking at one particular yarn and one particular colorway, and I came across this website called Rito. This one, it is a Danish company, so I guarantee I am saying it wrong. But they sell drops yarn and they ship it to Australia. They also charge in USD dollars, so the conversion was a little bit better than buying something in like euros or pounds. So I was pretty excited that I could get my hands on some drops because basically any popular brand of yarn is super duper expensive, not really accessible, and you have to pay a shit ton in shipping to get it here. So I still had to pay a shit ton in shipping to get it here. It literally cost me like $47-ish Australian just for shipping. Now I did max out my order to like the maximum weight I possibly could to get shipped over here, which I think is around about 2 kgs. But that's still like a sweater quantity of yarn just in shipping alone. So this stabs a little bit, like it hurts to kind of say that out loud that I spent that much on shipping. But anyways, when factoring the shipping into the cost per ball, it's actually not badly priced still. So I went a bit mad. I placed one order. I actually filmed a yarn haul for that first order, but then like a week later, I made a second order. So I decided I'll refilm that and we'll just do an entire drops yarn haul today, plus one other yarn that I got from Bendigo, but we'll talk about that later. So let's get started. So first of all, I picked up some mohair. So I got 3 different colors of the Drops Kid Silk yarn. So this is the 75% mohair, 25% silk. It's 2-ply lace. And I have the colors. This light creamy one here is number 56 marzipan. I then have number 20 light beige, and I have number 35 chocolate. So all of these I've got projects to pair them with, so we'll talk about those in a second. But in terms of cost for this yarn, each ball was listed for $3.75 USD. Now converting that into Australian dollars, we've got a couple different prices because I brought in 2 different batches. So this one cost me $6.02, including the shipping, like factoring in the shipping costs. It's $7.79 per ball for this colorway. And then these 2 colors, they came up to $5.97 Australian, or factoring in shipping, $7.44 per ball. So just a few cents off in terms of price, but around $7.50, give or take. So that's the mohair. Now I'm going to be pairing that mohair with, first of all, we have some Drops Nord here. So this one is technically, I believe, a sock yarn, but I don't plan to make socks with it. It is 45% alpaca, 30% polyamide, 25% wool, 4-ply fingering weight. And this color that I've got here is also marzipan. The number is number 29. This one cost me $2.05 per ball, which would be $3.29 Australian. Including shipping is $4.11 per ball for the Nord. So I'm pairing these 2 marzipan colors together, and I'm going to be making the No Frills cardigan by Petite Knit. Now this was one that was on my kind of 2025 wish list, but one where I was like, I don't think I'm going to have enough time to actually make this, but if I do want to pick up something extra, it will be this one. But I didn't have yarn for it, so I was kind of like, it's probably a next year project. Now that I have yarn for it, it may become a this year project, but it's going to take me such a long time to make that piece that it will probably be like something I start towards the end of the cold season, knit it all across summer, and then have it ready for like this time next year, because we're going into autumn now. So it'll be a suitable transitional piece for that time of year. But that's one of the pieces that I plan on making with this yarn. Next up, I have probably one of the most popular or like commonly used yarns, in my opinion, that I've seen, and that is Drops Lima. So this one is 65% wool and 35% alpaca. It is their DK weight or 8-ply yarn. So I've actually got this in 2 different colorways. This one that I've got here is 9026 chestnut, and this cost me $1.95 US, $3.07 Australian. Factoring in the shipping, it is $3.82 per ball. Now I plan to pair this with the chocolate mohair, and we are going to be making the Agnes sweater by Cookie the Knitter. I specifically picked this colorway, or these 2 colors together, because the pattern does call for these specific yarns, but I also saw someone's project photo where she had made it in this colorway, and I thought that looked quite nice on her. But true to everything online, I feel like the color looks a little bit different online than it does in real life, and this is one of those cases, because I do have a gauge swatch here of what the fabric is going to look like, and I just don't feel like mine quite looks the same as like the picture. The picture looked a little bit more like olive undertone based brown, still very much a warm brown, but like more, you know what I mean, olivey undertone. But yeah, that's what the fabric's going to end up looking like. It's like a honeycombed brioche stitch. I don't think I like it with the mohair though. I feel like the mohair really takes away from the texture of the stitch, because it's adding that like fuzz layer and kind of like blurring out the stitch. But I mean, the pattern calls for these 2 yarns to be held together, and I don't have anything else to pair this yarn with. It's like a very unique color, so we're still going to make it in that colorway. The other color I have is one that I've already cracked into, and it's this one, which is 9024 Almond, and I'll just hold them next to each other so you can kind of see a comparison between chestnut on top, almonds on the bottom down here. And this color I specifically brought. This is what kind of started my hunt specifically for Drops yarn and how I came across the website. I was looking at this particular yarn, and that's because I wanted to use it to make the cinnamon beanie, which is a free pattern by Drops. And I've obviously already made it, and I haven't, as you can see, cut the yarn yet, because I don't think I'm happy with the size. I think I might rip it back and make another size, but I just haven't got around to doing that yet. So she's still in one piece. This definitely looks different to the color in the pattern photo though. Again, like online versus reality is just like completely different. I don't hate the color, but it's also not quite what I was expecting. Now this one, I think when I purchased the chestnut colorway, it was on sale, because this one cost me $2.05 US, which is $3.29 Australian, or $4.11 per ball for the almond colorway. So a little bit different price between the 2 orders there in terms of actual unit price, like listed price, whatever we want to call it. Now, because I have used the Drops Lima already, I have some opinions about it. And I will say it's pretty inconsistent amongst the balls that I have in my collection. The almond color definitely feels a lot more kind of like stiff and not necessarily rough, but like a little rough compared to the chestnut color. The chestnut feels a little bit less like stiff. It's a little bit softer, but still it's more on the stiff side. I don't particularly like it. Knitting with it for the first time, I don't know if it was just like the very first ball that I used of the Lima was like really yuck yarn, or I've got used to the yarn, but like knitting with the first ball, it was literally like knitting with cardboard. Like I didn't particularly enjoy it, and I was instantly regretting the fact that I had already placed an order for more without trying the yarn first, because I think if I had used it first, I might have maybe changed my mind on making the Agnes sweater. But anyways, now I've got 2 lots of this yarn. I will say once I blocked the hat, It did soften up. The yarn is a lot more like drapey and soft, and it feels a lot nicer now that it's been blocked. Pre-blocking, it wasn't that nice, and I didn't particularly enjoy working with it. But like I say, like this almond colorway feels so much different to the chestnut colorway. The chestnut just feels nicer. So I don't know, it's pretty inconsistent between the colors. But that is my Lima. Now, same composition as the Lima, but in a different weight. We do have our drops Flora that I've picked up. So again, it's 65% wool, 35% alpaca. This one is the fingering or the 4-ply weight yarn. And I will say this one feels nicer than the Lima does, like a lot nicer. So I don't know if it's just because it's thinner yarn or what it is, but this one just does feel a lot softer. I have mine in the color number 31 Sand, and this also cost me $1.95 per ball. So that's it was $3.13 when I convert it to Australian dollars, or $3.92, including all the shipping costs. So with this yarn, I plan on making the twist loop top by Outer Loops. Too many loops to say there. Which was on my 2025 knitting plan. So I'm quite excited to actually cast this on because it is a wool. So it would be like, even though it is a singlet, because this is like a wool yarn, it is more of like a winter singlet. Like it'll be nice like to wear underneath like a blazer or something like that. So I'm still quite excited to cast this on. And in fact, I have done my little gauge swatch there just in a rib, which will be for the twist loop top. And it feels so nice. It feels so much nicer than the Lima does. Like this is nice and soft. It's like stretchy, and like this just feels lovely. So yeah, that's going to be the twist loop top in the color Sand. So I look forward to casting that one on at some point. Also, I'll just quickly compare these two as well, because these are the two fingering weights. They are slightly different colors. So this one was the Flora, so that's in the color Sand, and this is the Nord in the color Marzipan. You can see they are very similar, but they are a little bit different. But in terms of feel, the Flora definitely feels a little bit more like stiff. The Tinsiest bit more rustic. This one feels so much softer and nicer. Like you can tell there's some like some synthetic in here. So it just feels way nicer, and I think I might prefer this one. But again, I haven't knitted anything up like fully in these. From the gauge swatch, this one knitted up just fine. I quite enjoyed it. But this one, I think it's just going to be like extra nice. So either of these I'd be happy to kind of repurchase. Like first impression wise, they seem to be nice. So next one I have is a summer yarn, and that is Drops Bell. So this one is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. We are again a DK weight or 8-ply yarn there. And this one is in the color number 26 Pearl. So this one costs me $1.60 US, $2.52 Australian. Factoring in shipping, that comes to $3.14 per ball for this particular yarn. And with this summery yarn, I plan to make the Ingrid top by Gregoria Fibers. Did I say that right? Gregoria Fibers. Anyways, so that's the top I'm going to be making. Now, in all honesty, I don't know, like this doesn't feel really that nice. I haven't used any plant fiber yarns like this yet, so this will be my first time working with something that's like cotton and linen based. And to be honest, like feeling it like this, I think the end fabric's going to be nice, but there's like zero stretch to this yarn, so I think it might not be that enjoyable to knit with. I don't think I'm going to love it, and the feel of it is a little like dry. I don't know if that is a way to describe it, but it feels a little bit like, I don't know, on my fingers. So we'll see how this one knits up. I haven't done any gauge swatch or anything with it yet, But yeah, I think this will be an interesting one to try out. I almost brought more of this for another top. I was thinking of the Salty Days, but I very quickly changed my mind as soon as I felt this. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. So we'll make the Ingrid top first and see how that one goes. All right, next up we have Drops. What are you? Merino extra fine yarn. So this is a DK weight again, 8 ply, 100% wool. This one is superwash. Now I haven't used a superwash yarn before, so I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. I know a lot of people are like anti-superwash because it stretches a lot, but I really wanted like a merino over just standard wool, and there weren't any non-superwash merinos that I saw anyways. There's non-superwash wool. I know there's Drops Daisy, but I'm not sure if that's merino or not, but I've heard a lot of negatives around Daisy, like pilling a lot, so I was like, I don't really want to do that. So anyways, I picked the, what is it? Extra fine to test out, and it does feel lovely and soft and squishy, and I really like it. Now this one in terms of color. So on one website it was called taupe, and on another website it was called brown. So I wouldn't call it taupe or brown, I would call it a grey, but the unit, like the colour number, was still the same as number 06. So this is number 06, either taupe or brown. I don't know. But this one was a little bit more pricey. So this one cost me $2.65 US, which is $4.17 Australian. Factoring in shipping, that's $5.19. Now, I do have another yarn that I can kind of compare this to, which is also a superwash yarn, not merino, but a wool. I'll do that one later. In terms of price per 50 gram ball, they basically work out to be the same. So although this is the most expensive, or one of the more expensive Drops yarns that I did purchase, it still works out to be equivalent to something I could buy more or less locally. But anyways, with this one, I have done a couple gauge swatches. So I plan on making the Colette Pullover by Sari Nordlin. And I've actually done 2 different swatches because we had different needle sizes. You can kind of see what the fabric comes out like. So we've got, this one was 4mm needles, which is what the yarn calls for. And then this one I did on 4.5. So you can kind of see it stretches out and it's a little bit more like gapey there on that one. I did it on other needles because the pattern, I don't know how she gets gauge on that pattern. She's knitting with a fingering and a mohair, but it does say you can use like a DK weight. And she's using like 3.5mm needles and gets a gauge larger than what I've been able to achieve with 4.5mm needles and a DK. So I don't know, I'm going to have to do some math on that one and figure out that pattern. But the yarn, I have blocked it and I don't think it stretched like anything dramatic, but I have heard that it does stretch like in length. And so once the garment's been knitted up, because of the weight of the garment itself, it may stretch in length. So we'll have to see if that one and see how the superwash kind of reacts compared to like normal yarn. Next up, I have some thicker yarn, which is Drops Air. So I got this in 2 colorways. So this is a 65% alpaca, 28% polyamide, and 7% wool blend. It's 10 ply, and it's listed as being like an Aran or worsted weight yarn. But this one is like a blow-in yarn. So basically there's like this little mesh tube, and then I believe they blow fibers into that little tube, and that's how they kind of get this really light, soft yarn. It feels lovely. Oh my gosh, it feels so nice and it's so lightweight. I have gone on a lot about how I don't like knitting with thicker yarns because the weight of the fabric that they create and things like that, but I have actually finished a project which was a sweater using the lighter color here, and it's lovely. Like, I like it so much. It's so warm and cozy and lightweight, and it looks good, and because it is this blow-in yarn, you can kind of get away with using like smaller like needles and doing a really tight gauge because it kind of crushes on itself. So it's so nice. I will say it sheds a shit ton. When I was knitting with it, my clothes were just like covered in fluffs constantly. I had fluffs in my lip balm, like so much fluffs. So I do enjoy it. For certain projects, I would be happy to buy it again, but I wouldn't go mad and buy it for like every single project because it is a certain look and feel with this yarn. But the colors that I have here, so again, I brought these out and one was like on sale, one wasn't. So the first one I've got here is in the color 02 Wheat. I will say again, online versus reality, I feel like the colors look a little bit different. I feel like online, particularly in the project photo, it looked a little bit more greyish undertone. In real life, it is a bit more like warmer. But this one cost me $3.55 US, which is $5.70 Australian, factoring in shipping. It's $7.13 per ball. I will say though, you don't need that many balls for a piece. So I purchased 8 balls, which was the amount of yarn that the pattern called for, but I only used 6.5 balls of yarn. So I've annoyingly got one whole one left. So you don't need a huge amount. So it's a bit more pricey per ball, but you need less balls. So with this one, I didn't even say what I made. It was a drops pattern. I literally saw this pattern and then purchased the yarn for the pattern like straight away. I don't know, there was something about the pattern. I was like, that looks nice. I saw some project photos of it. And I was like, yeah, I could do that in my wardrobe. So it is the Bronze Summer Sweater, a free pattern by Drops Design. I've already made it. I like it. I'm happy with it. I'm contemplating whether or not I want to like rip it back and make a larger size just so I can use up the quantity of yarn. But at the same time, I'm like, do I want to redo it all again? And also when I was like pulling back a little bit of it, this kind of like, I don't know if the correct term is felting on itself, but it was becoming very hard to like pull it apart. So I'm a little bit scared to pull it apart and redo it. But anyways, it's a story for another day. The other colorway I've got here is 31 Black, and I purchased this one for $3.59 US, so just a smidge more expensive. So it's $5.65 Australian, factoring in shipping, it was $7.04. So that's interesting because this was $3.55 when I purchased it. This was $3.59, so like 4 cents more. Yet conversions, because Mr. Trump likes to keep saying stupid things and the US dollar keeps getting better. This one cost me $7.13 and this one cost me $7.04. So, I mean, we're talking cents, but nonetheless, I love saving. But with the black yarn, I want to make myself a Sophie hood by Petite Knit. Now, I'm very anti the Sophie scarf, but the Sophie hood, I'm like, yes, I could do with that in my wardrobe. And I have seen some other projects using drops. It looks nice and that's super lightweight and cozy. It's going to be such a warm, nice scarf. So I look forward to making that. So the last yarn I have isn't a drops yarn, but I am pairing it with a drops yarn. So I've included it in this video. This is another one. And this is the Bendigo Woollen Mills Classic 8-ply yarn that I picked up. This one is 100% wool and it is, well, they call it 100% machine washable wool. So it'll be super wash, but it is just, I think, standard wool. I really wanted to try Bendigo. So with my drops order, because there's a weight limit on your package, and I put all the yarn I wanted into my cart, but I was like over the weight limit. So something had to go. I was looking at, I can't remember which yarn types I was like tossing up between, but it was like DK weights, and it was either in the color pistachio or the color sage, were the kind of like greeny, grey, kind of green colors that I was looking for. So I removed those from my cart because Bendigo had a very much similar color, and I was like, then I can try Bendigo and also get on my drops yarn and it'll work out real nice. But I will say this looked way different online than it looks in real life. It's a lot more like green than I was expecting it. And so it's not going to quite work out for the project that I initially had in mind, but I do have backup plans for this. Anyways, this is the color, I didn't actually say. This is the color 745 Pale Eucalypt. This costs $15.95 per ball, and there is a free shipping. If you spend like $75 or something like that, you do get free shipping, but I didn't want to add anything else to my cart, so I did pay for the shipping, which I think was like $10. But I got 3 of these balls, so incorporating the shipping, it's $19.26 for a ball. Now, this ball is obviously much larger than, drops balls. These are 200 grams. These are all 50 grams. So if we break the price down per 50 grams, this would be, without shipping, $3.98, with shipping $4.81 per 50 grams. So pretty much on a similar price point as all of the drops yarn. So it just really depends on whether or not you want a superwash yarn and you can find the right color, to whether or not it's worthwhile just buying it locally or doing the drops order. I will say this arrived in literally like 2 days, so I love that aspect of it, because there's nothing better than seeing something and then getting it in your hands pretty much straight away, whereas everything else had to be shipped from Denmark, so it took like 2 weeks to get here, which isn't bad, but also isn't instant. But anyways, for the first project, I did plan to pair the green yarn with the light beige colorway. I saw someone's project photo for, I can't remember what project it was, or something totally random. I was just like looking up the colors just to get a gauge on whether or not I would like that particular color. So I search the yarn and then I look up this color type so I can see other people's projects, because it's really hard to grasp true color online versus real life. So if you look at other people's photos and all the project photos, you can kind of get a better understanding of what the color of a finished piece is going to look like. Anyways, someone had the color combo of, I think it was pistachio from Drops with light beige, and that's why I purchased like the green and the kind of light beige mohair, with the hope that they would make a more grayish green end fabric. Now I have knitted up a swatch, and I think because the green just isn't quite the right color, I don't really like how the swatch has come out. It definitely looks a little bit more like icy. Maybe if I had gone for like the beige instead of the light beige mohair, we would have got a better effect. But now the sweater that this little swatch is from, if you don't recognize it already, is the Arctic Light sweater by Kuto Vakika. I have to like say that like 7 times before I say it out loud, just to make sure I pronounce it right. But yeah, so that's what I was originally going to make with this yarn combo, but I just don't like how that kind of fabric looks. I don't think it looks bad, but at the same time, like, it's just something that I probably wouldn't reach for, and I don't want to put all that time in making like a beautiful cabled sweater and not wear it because the color's a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is, since I've already got the right quantity of this light beige, I think I might just buy an equivalent DK weight drops yarn in light beige to pair with it. I think I might go for like the merino, if I like it in the knitted up piece, and just pair it with this. So I'll do light beige matching yarns for the Arctic Light sweater. And this yarn, in order to use it up, I do have backup plans. So I just recently did a gift knit, and when I sent the recipient a few pattern options, one of the patterns they kind of sent back as a shortlist was the Weekend Glow sweater by Julia Prio, and they specifically said in the kind of greenish colorway. Now again, this green is not quite the right color green to the picture, but it is close enough, so I might end up just making that as another gift knit. All right, and that is it, guys. That is all of the drops yarn that I've recently acquired. There will be another yarn haul coming at some point. I don't know when, because I have possibly placed another order, but I've actually picked up some knitting for Olive yarn that I am beyond excited for that to arrive, because everyone knits with Knitting for Olive yarn, and they had free shipping on their website. I'll go into more detail about it when I do the actual yarn haul, but basically it's free shipping, so I brought some. But they are for like summer projects, so I don't think I'm not going to be in any rush to probably do anything with those yarns, so they can like sit around and hang out. It's not like I'm going to use them because I want to be able to show the ball on here. Anyways, so I've got that on its way. I also think I might do a trip out to Bendigo. It's a bit of a journey. It's going to take me like 3 hours each way on the train to get to Bendigo from my place. But I do want to pick up some of the other yarns. So I also ordered their like little shade card thing of all of their different yarns. So you can see all the different colors, and they've got their classic luxury and cotton ranges in this little sample card thing here. So there's a couple yarns in here that I want to pick up. I've got a couple projects that I want to use this yarn on. I'm thinking of picking up some of their either classical luxury but in a fingering weight, and possibly some of their cotton. But I did just watch a video from Morgan Unraveled, and she went to actual Bendigo, and they've got this like back room, and she picked up like some alpaca yarn, and I didn't know that they had alpaca yarn. So I'm kind of keen to like go up there knowing that I want to buy some yarn anyways. Like I could easily buy that yarn online, but like the journey won't be wasted because I want to pick up some yarn. So, you know, I'm kind of using that as an excuse, but I want to go and look at that back room because if they've got alpaca yarn there, like I definitely want to pick some up. So whatever I buy from Bendigo plus the Knitting for Olive, I will do another yarn haul in the future and show you those pictures and let you know what I'm going to make with those as well. But that will be at some future date. But for all of these yarns that I've got here and any future ones, there will be project vlogs. So, you know, subscribe and do all that jazz if you want to be notified when those come out. Obviously, it's going to be months and months for me to use up all of this yarn, but I will be able to give you more of an opinion on each of these yarns once I've worked up a piece in them. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye. Are we crooked? Do a little mini haul. It's not so mini. Got fluffs. Either of these I'd happily say that again. Oh, I don't know what happened to my light just there. There we are. Before I... People on their fucking motorbikes. Greg Gore. I always look at that and just automatically would think like Georgina or like Kuto Vakika. You know what I'm talking about. This guy, it's attached to a project. I wonder if I've got another ball somewhere actually. Actually, I probably won't see that.